I believe that Dick Cheney is an honorable individual, and I think the President of the United States depends a great deal upon him. But I would like to also quickly point out, since I'm not going to get a chance, is that I don't want to leave this audience. No, when you says that nobody supports Senator Grassley's SES-CHIP program, to have the press, because I know how the press acts, that the press will come back, all Republicans are against poor children and health care for them. That is not what we said.
It's not what I said either, but go ahead.
We said that what we want to do is we want to change SES-CHIP on a competitive model against the Democrats. And another
But you're not with Senator Grassley, and I want to move on to this, stay on this subject. Okay, I just want to stay on this subject. Mayor Giuliani.
I think the Vice President of the United States, that office has to be worked out with the President. And the thing that's the clearest about it, now that we're at war, and we have this Islamic terrorist war against us, and we have this aggressive enemy that's already attacked us here in the United States twice, is that a Vice President has to be just as capable, just as ready to take over that office, literally on a moment's notice. And that should be the major qualification. And then it should be in the discretion of the President and the Vice President to decide on what kind of responsibilities they should have.
But would you like to have a Vice President like Vice President Cheney with that wide range of portfolio?
I worked in the Reagan administration. I thought the division of responsibilities between President Reagan and Vice President Bush was a good one. I thought it was a really comfortable one. I'm real clear on the fact that George W. Bush is the President of the United States. He's the only one. He makes the decisions. He can use Vice President Cheney the way he sees fit. And I'm comfortable that you select somebody who can step in on a moment's notice with experience, background, knowing what's going on. We can't have a kind of situation like we had in the 1940s with Harry Truman, where Harry Truman, thank God, turned out to be the kind of president he was, but apparently he didn't even know about the Manhattan Project. You can't have that any longer.
Governor Romney?
You let the president decide what the responsibilities of the vice president will be in his administration.
What would you decide?
What depends on the person, depends on the needs, depends on their capabilities. But I like a person that gives wide viewpoints and a wide array of issues. But let me tell you, it's been very popular lately for people across the country to be critical of the president and the vice president. And I know they make mistakes, but they have kept us safe these last 6 years. Let's not forget that.
Senator
George, I wouldn't delegate things to the vice president, but I would involve the vice president in a lot of things. But I think there's a key point here to look at. One is that Dick Cheney came in with a lot of experience. He came in a lot of experience on defense, foreign policy issues, and I think the president over-relied on that. I think Dick Cheney has done an admirable job. I think the president's over-relied upon that. I think you need somebody coming into the presidency that's had foreign policy experience, that's worked on these national and global issues so that they don't have to depend on the vice president as much. I think you should have a highly competent person as vice president that can step in at any time and can provide you high-quality information, reflection, wisdom, that's needed in that job, but not somebody that takes over the job.
Congressman Paul?
I certainly wouldn't support an amendment to change the role for the vice president. But there's no way to know exactly what goes on. But if you take perceptions from Washington, most people there behind the scenes think the vice president is more powerful than the president. Philosophically, I think this is the case. It's obvious that he represents the neoconservative viewpoint, and my objection is that that has been the rejection of the Republican Party platform and traditional conservatism, and I think this is where we have gone astray. We have drifted from our fundamental premises and the conservative values that this party used to...
Congressman Hunter, you get the last word on this.
Thank you, George, it depends on the credentials of the president. I served in Vietnam, didn't do anything special, but I wore the uniform. I've been the chairman of the Armed Services Committee for the last 4 years, and my son has now done 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. I can look the American people in the eye and say, we're all in this together. So I would not share the role of commander-in-chief with a vice president. If you got other folks that have less background in national security, they're going to need to have a vice president that they rely on much more.
I need to move on now. The issue is taxes. Always important in these caucuses and primaries. And the Iowa Republican Party has said the most important economic reform Congress can enact to win the fight against poverty is the fair tax. For our viewers, I want to explain what the fair tax is. It would eliminate the income tax, estate tax, payroll tax, and capital gains tax. It would eliminate all those and replace it with a 23% sales tax. That's the fair tax. Here's Mr. Yepsen with the question.
Governor Huckabee, this issue of tax policy, I see it as a real fault line inside your party. Fair tax, national sales tax, a flat tax, or make adjustments to the existing tax system. Where do you come down on this question?
I absolutely support the fair tax, and part of the reason is the current system is one that penalizes productivity. A recent poll showed that more Americans fear an audit of the IRS than they do getting mugged. And the reason is getting mugged isn't as painless as an audit from the IRS. And the reality is, if we could have the fair tax, you take $10 trillion parked offshore, bring it home. You rebuild the Made in America brand. You free up people to earn money, to work. You don't penalize them for taking a second job. You don't penalize them for investing. You don't penalize them for savings. Today, our tax system doesn't need a tap of the hammer, a twist of the screwdriver. It needs a complete overhaul. And what the fair tax does, it ends the underground economy. No more illegals, let me, if I may. No more illegals, no more gamblers, prostitutes, pimps, and dope dealers will be able to escape the tax code. It's the single greatest thing that will help this country have a revitalized economy.
Governor Romney, how do you come down on this question?
It's good, but it's not that good.
No, it's actually better than that, Ned. It's even better than that.
There are a lot of features that are very attractive about a fair tax. Getting rid of the IRS is something we'd all love, but the truth is we're going to have to pay taxes. We are the largest economy in the world. We've added, during the time Europe added 3 million jobs, we've added about 50 million jobs in this country. And so completely throwing out our tax system and coming up with an entirely new one is something we have to do very, very carefully. The President's Commission on Taxation, Tax Reform, looked at this and said, not a good idea. Some of the reasons...
They didn't look at that.
Let me complete. Some of the reasons are the fair tax, for instance, charges a 23% tax plus state sales tax on a new home when you purchase a new home. But if you buy an old home, there's no tax. Think what that might do to the construction industry. We need to thoroughly take it apart before we make a change of that nature. That's why my view is get rid of the tax on savings and let middle-income people save their money tax-free.
Mayor Giuliani, which one of the three options are you for? National sales.
Eliminate the death tax. That should be eliminated immediately. It makes no sense at all. In 2010, the death tax is going to go to 0%. And then it's going to go to 55% in 2011. You do not want to be on a respirator in 2010.
But Governor, excuse me for a second. Governor Huckabee is...
And then I would say the most sensible thing to do is to simplify the tax code, reduce taxes, keep taxes low. I think the flat tax and the fair tax are both very intriguing. And if we were starting off at the very beginning with taxation, first argument I would make is let's not have any taxes. The second argument I'd make is the fair tax or the flat tax would probably be a better way to go.
But you're not for the fair tax now, correct?
It would be too complex to get there. And somebody would have to show me how we're going to make that transition. And also the thought that there wouldn't be an IRS with the fair tax. Well, who is going to administer the sales tax? And who's going to administer the people that are exempt from the sales tax? And who is going to administer what items might be exempt from the sale? Maybe food would be exempt from a sales tax.
Senator McCain, how do you come down on this question?
I believe that we've got to simplify the tax code, but one of the first areas we've got to go after is the alternate minimum tax, which is going to eat into 20 million American families if we don't eliminate it, and very quickly. Look, when we found out that Congress could not close a single military base when we had a huge number of them, we passed a law where we appointed a commission, and they said we would close so many bases, and Congress votes up or down. I would find Alan Greenspan. I'd say, give us your recommendations. We'll pass a law, and we will vote on Alan Greenspan and his commission's recommendations, yes or no, up or down. That's the way you're going to simplify the tax code, which now requires $140 billion for American families' income to prepare their tax return.
Congressman Tancredo?
The reason why we absolutely need to go to something like a fair tax, and I am a co-sponsor, and by the way, if you don't understand how it would work, I would suggest to you that you read Neil Bortz's book and John Linder's. It's a perfect explanation of how it works. Now, well, then you should know how it works. And the fact is that, but the most important reason to move from an income tax to something like a fair tax, to specifically a fair tax, is because an income tax is designed to manipulate behavior. It gives the government the power to manipulate your behavior. I reward you for the things I want you to do by giving you a tax cut.